Hello and welcome to this live stream on EV batteries, enclosures, integration and what this means for robotics and automation. Vehicle makers are continuing to develop their own battery pack and enclosures, and they're seeking to optimize the design, the materials and integration into vehicles. And this sees them adding a lot of new equipment, processes, systems and manufacturing operations into an already complex production network and supply chain. So during this session, we're going to cover some of the key areas and challenges around this. The challenges of producing battery enclosures and integrating them into the vehicle bodies, optimizing the battery pack performance around weight and costs, the role that AI and new software operations or platforms are providing in advancing automation in manufacturing operations, and automating the production processes for high volume production to ramp up to meet demand. So before we get into our session, a couple of points for our audience. I'd like to invite you to all to send some questions in for our panelists to pick up. We'll feed those in during our conversation. You can just type those questions into the box in the lower right hand side of your screen. Also, if you experience any technical issues, just again put a message into that box and our team here will hope to rectify that for you. To start with, I'd like to thank our partner for this live stream, ABB. We worked with them a long time, over many years, and quite closely on this. And in addition to that, we're working with them on a survey, an industry survey. So automotive manufacturing, we're working in partnership on the process and automation of robotics specialist, ABB. We do an annual survey, and this has had very good results and very good response over recent years. And this is identifying key manufacturing challenges facing automotive OEMs and tier suppliers, but also to highlight the positive opportunities within this, what is the most transitional period in the history of all the automotive industry, if that's not overstating it. So the survey, there's a link in the chat box now, so you can go there and register and share your insights and experience. It's quick and easy to do, only take a few minutes, but your input is very important to us. Right, I'd like to now, if I may, welcome our speakers onto the. So first of all, Global Solution Center Manager Vaclav Slub from ABB. Welcome, Vaclav. You're a bit of an old hand joining AMS live streams. You know you've done a couple over the years, so thank you for joining us. And from Volvo Trucks, Wenting Hu, who is Lead Geometrical Architect. Are you joining us, Wenting? There you go. Can you hear me? Great. Excellent. So just before we start to get the real stuff from our speakers, one last piece of information. The AMS Automotive Evolution North America Conference will be held across October 16th and 17th in Dearborn. So we'd love you to join us if you can, if you're in the region, if you're in the area. We have got a great lineup of speakers for you, looking specifically at developments in North America. So people from Ford, GM, Stellantis, VW, Panasonic, and more will be sharing their experience and insights into the region's shift to EV production. So we're looking forward to that. That should be a great conversation. And again, there should be a link in the chat box for you to follow if you'd like to find out more about that. Anyway, that's enough about other things. Let's get started. If I could ask both of you just to share a little bit more about your roles and your current operations that you're working on at the moment, just to set a little bit of context and a bit of insight into what you're doing. So Vaclav, if I can come to you first on that.
Okay, first of all, hello everybody. Hello Nick, very happy to be here again with you. So my role officially it's a Global Solution Center Chassis Manager, which means that I'm responsible globally for the chassis business in ABB Robotics. And of course, chassis means, you know, different parts, but recently, I would say over the last 5 years, we are very much focused also on the battery enclosures, because this is somehow combining our experience in different processes all together. And this is the area which is growing. So that's basically one of the key focus of my team in the recent years.
Okay. And Wenting, could you share a bit of insight into your role and what you're working on at the moment?
Yes, hello everyone. This is Wenting. I work as a geometry architect at Volvo Group Truck Technology, and my focus for the project I'm working on is focus developing the next generation of the battery truck focus on with heavy duty application. And basically the daily job is to try to figure out what is the next generation of the battery design and try to integrate the battery into the wheelbase area, so to say. Yeah, and yeah, that's it.
It's interesting. I mean, the battery pack integration is quite a big challenge. Battery enclosure production is quite a big challenge as well. It's something we've decided to sort of look at in more depth here. And we know from speaking with OEMs and tier suppliers that there are a number of challenges around this, and as design and by extension manufacturing operations, it's an evolving process at the moment. Could I just ask you at the minute, in terms of what you see in the industry in your respective roles, what the sort of trends and challenges are around this particular part of the electric powertrain, and sort of, I mean, you mentioned a little bit of looking to the forward. I'll come to you, Wenting, of sort of where we are now with the developments of technologies, materials, etc., and where we want to be. I mean, sort of maybe a little bit about timelines as well. You're discussing there working on next gen application.
Yeah, where we are now, basically for the Volvo the group is quite in a leading position of making the zero emission to develop the battery vehicles, or including heavy duty trucks and medium duty trucks. And the first the BEV cars already in the market. And what we're working on is try to improve the current product we're having. And it's like in the, but we're kind of in the also transition area, transition phase, that we have to also adapt the conventional vehicle structure and to implement the battery system into that traditional way of making trucks. And so that's basically where we are right now. And we have of course the cost is one of the challenge we're facing now, since truck is a business too. It's not only people buy it for fun, right? They want to make money of it. Yeah. So also truck is also very complicated product. It's a lot of people using in different purpose, and much more complicated than compared to passenger vehicles. Yeah.
I mean, as you say, the usage and application is part of that big challenge for heavy trucks and heavy vehicles. I mean, you mentioned there at the minute you're working around existing kind of platforms and designs around heavy duty truck. Do you see the need for the platform to change and alter to be able to optimize the battery pack integration, or do you see the battery pack having to sort of still fit that reasonably conventional platform system that they have at the minute? Do you see much change in that?
To me, I definitely see there's a need or a trend that we have to kind of design around electrical propulsion instead of adapt it, because that is even could be, in some sense, it could be more difficult than developing something new. Yeah.
And coming to you, Vaclav, in terms of production and by extension automation, I know we've had conversations about you're working with various suppliers and manufacturers around the enclosures side. Where are you now with that, and where do you want to be, or where do they want to be going forward?
Yeah, definitely. You know, ABB Robotics, it's not designing the products, it's not designing the cars, but we are trying to help our customers, OEMs and tiers, you know, to, let's say, produce that part as efficient as possible. And what we see on the market is still, you know, it's not stabilized, yeah? Not from the design point of view, definitely not from the, let's say, capacity and volume point of view. So basically, this is like the main challenge these days for us, but I can imagine also for our customers, somehow to stabilize this design, you know, of these new EV vehicles. We see different materials, we see different concepts, you know, and it's changing inside even of one company. Yeah? So I would say the companies are still trying to find the best solution possible, best design possible. And then, of course, we are here to somehow react on those changes and to help our customers to basically bring the manufacturing line, let's say, as fast as possible and with the good results, you know, which they need.
I mean, you're looking at it from a production angle, but it's interesting. Where do you see what's influencing, from your client's point of view, customer's point of view, what's influencing their design and production decisions going forward?
Yeah,
I mean,
think it's a,
isn't it? So
I think it's a combination of few things. Yeah, of course, you know, they expect certain quality and certain performance, you know, of the car. Yeah, as you can imagine, the battery enclosure or the battery pack in the passenger car, it's kind of the most rigid part of the car right now. So definitely there must be rigidity, which requires certain, you know, materials to be used, and that's one angle, you know, the design of the whole car itself. But then, of course, you know, how we are able to produce that particular, you know, component into the car. So since, you know, the battery trays or battery enclosures are brand new, let's say, part of the car, there are, of course, new processes being involved. Yeah, we are not speaking only about the welding, but we are speaking about combination of many processes which are not, let's say, maybe so established right now. So it's different coating, you know, to do the isolation layer. It's a friction stir welding, you know, a lot of milling, a lot of grinding, and so on. And all those processes are being at the end combined in one single production line, which of course creates challenges, you know, how to run the line, how to maintain the line, what would be the quality result at the end of the day, and so on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a metal box and it's massively complicated to make and get to work. So I think it's a fascinating engineering project. Wenting, from the same question to you, kind of from your perspective, developing the enclosures and the integration of that. What are the kind of things that are influencing you most in that respect? In terms of, are you involved? Do you get involved with the design, and then you have to take into account the sort of production considerations relating to that?
Yes, in our design, we have to design, of course, towards a good performance product, but we also have to design for the manufacturing and also for serviceability. And for the manufacturing part, we have, because right now they are planned to building perhaps new lines to building like BEVs, but still we have to adapt to the current what they have, because the facility investment and everything it's costly. And right now we're running like kind of different vehicles in this same line, and that is kind of a traditional way of, or the OEM has been run this all the time. We can manufacture, and that is a kind of advantage of that. We have to we can manage different product in the same line, and then that is a challenge for design, because we have to adapt what we have right now, and that is yeah, definitely it's a big challenge for design for manufacturing. Yeah,
it's a very interesting one as well, because the whole process is linking all of those parts together, and that you alluded to the fact that there's very little stability at the minute around that, which is a massive headache for an industry that's based on standardization as a core foundation. So I mean, it's really interesting. I mean, I know Wenting, can I just come to you first on this question? We talked about, I think when we had a discussion earlier in the week about what the sort of priorities are, but around what are the you're trying to balance, I understand, cost, weight, range, performance in that. which is the sort of the key driver at the moment? I mean, I'm assuming you can make something very good but very expensive to make. So,
Yeah, I would say that at this stage, the cost is the main driver, if I could say that. Because people maybe have a different opinion of this one. But to me now, we already have product on the market, and that is more like maybe performance or range oriented. But right now we do need to lower the cost to make this truck as a business too, and we need to make it both profit for the OEM and also for people who buy it. So that is I would say this long-term target. We need to lower the cost.
Yeah, that's a very interesting one. As you say, commercial vehicles, they are a business on wheels essentially, so they need to be very, very cost effective. And it is an interesting factor that you're having to sort of deal with on top of all the engineering as well. I mean, Backlav, from your point of view as well, I'm assuming you don't really get into the sort of the design and the materials per se, but I mean, from a manufacturing point of view, you were saying there's a lot of, you mentioned sort of friction stir welding, things like that going on. You don't want too many processes in these things. What are the kind of key, do they just want the simplest operation possible from you?
No, I mean, for us, it's also, you know, cost, it's the major driver, let's say, and we have to be, let's say, cost effective to be able to succeed on the market and win the projects. But on the other side, there are definitely, you know, some more values which we are trying to offer to our customers, and like to kind of tackle those challenges which Quentin mentioned, and some more even. And we see that the biggest challenge these days, it's really this volatility of the volumes. Yeah. So basically, we are trying to somehow come together with our customers to the design of the line, which brings more this flexibility and scalability mainly. Like, you know, to be able to react fast on the growing volume and to reach, let's say, the peaks in the time when they need to reach them. Yeah. So basically, this is how we also try to set up our technology roadmap, our portfolio roadmap, to be able to offer to our customers this higher scalability and higher flexibility in terms of the manufacturing clients. So it's about combination of many things, AGVs, AMRs, you know, in terms of intralogistics and logistics operation, but also, you know, how to bring more robotized, let's say, flexible solutions into the lines and replace maybe, you know, these big rigid machines.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually going to come on to the challenges actually around this, and you mentioned some there. I mean, the idea, the fact that the challenge of ramping up to higher volume production for the enclosures is, and the volatility of the demand as well. I mean, it's increasing, but not necessarily as fast as some might want or has been envisaged. So, and that is always a big challenge, and that operates all the way through the supply chain as well, or from the OEM down through to the materials components and the tier suppliers doing the assembly as well. So, yeah, that's an interesting one. And Wenting, from your point of view, it might be slightly different. What's the biggest challenge? You mentioned cost being a big factor, but what is the biggest challenge that you're kind of facing in optimizing those battery packs and enclosures for heavy duty trucks?
Yeah, when we try to develop a battery, but we're actually not developing one battery. We have to develop several, like scalable battery for different wheelbase and for different application, and that is kind of a challenge, because right now if we see the battery industry, what we can find the reference or the benchmark, most are from passenger cars, and they have more or less a fixed area they can pack energies. And for the trucks, the scalability with the wheelbases will create a challenge for us, how we kind of with kind of a low cost or like a reasonable cost, that we can have different size of the battery pack. And that is come to kind of a topic which actually not something new. I mean, in truck design area, they've been talking about the modularity all the time, because that is what a solution we want to find, that we can have a scalability and a modularity design for battery pack. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, like you say, building different configurations of battery pack for different applications for potentially the same vehicle or a similar vehicle is a real headache. I I mean, if you look at the vehicles, the passenger car side of it, they're going for very as much as they can standardized vehicle platforms that they can adapt very quickly and easy. And that's an interesting one. I mean, in terms of these challenges around kind of coming back to you, Vaclav, you mentioned flexibility being quite a key thing. It's a word which we've heard a lot of recently because of that, just basically trying to produce two different sorts of vehicle, you know, ICE and EV. But I mean, obviously, you come down to the nitty-gritty of the actual manufacturing operations on a component like an enclosure. So is flexibility the solution that's popping up as the most important one for your clients?
Yeah, I think it is flexibility and scalability, and you know, we are trying really to propose and to agree with our customer on the solution how we are able in the future to basically ramp up the volume in the line. And we have like few examples where we started, you know, with pure manual loading, you know, pure manual operations, and then by basically having more volume, more demand from the end customers, we are adding step by step some more, let's say, Lego bricks. So basically adding more welding cells, adding more CNC machines, and so on. And by having, let's say, this volume growing, at the end, the last step is usually, you know, kind of automation of the complete line. That means bringing basically AGVs, replacing the forklifts, you know, to supply the line with the parts, installing the handling robots instead of operators. So really to pushing the capacity of the line to the maximum. But of course, this must start really at the beginning, you know, of the design of the line. Yeah? So we have to be ready for it. And of course, if the volume is not there, then maybe, you know, we will skip some steps into this, you know, journey, and we will not basically bring, or we will postpone that, you know, investments together with our customer a little bit to really react on the actual demand, you know, from the market. Yeah, so this is, as you said, I think key right now to really be able to react on the demand of the which is on the market.
Just coming back to you on a couple of things you mentioned there. I mean, one, we're dealing with a lot of brownfield sites at the moment, a lot of legacy plants, especially kind of in body shop and around that sort of area. So that's a challenge in itself, in the sense that you've got a basic infrastructure that you can't change readily. And I'll let you comment on that. But also my second sort of point to this is, does increasing flexibility across the line add complexity to the processes? I mean, what's your view on that?
Yeah, of course, you know, I think 1-2 years ago, we were thinking that the flexibility would mean the, let's say, mix of different variants of different models on one single line. Right now, what we see on the market, it's more really about reacting on these volume changes. Yeah? So that's more important than to have, let's say, 3 different models of the car in one line. Of course, for the OEMs and also tiers, it's challenging right now to really have somehow everything together, because OEMs are still producing, let's say, old-fashioned ICE cars. They are ramping a lot of new models, you know, full electric, and we see a lot of, let's say, like a mix on the market these days. So this is you know, connected to the flexibility. And of course, you know, as soon as you bring more automation, you bring more, let's say, challenges from the technical point of view. But nevertheless, you know, we are still at the beginning, but I think, you know, we have enough experience on the market, you know, not only ABB, but also other companies to really overcome those technical challenges and make sure that the line will produce as it should be.
Yeah. Now, coming back to you, Wenting, you mentioned some of the challenges around that variation in vehicle application and managing different batteries. You said perhaps one of the key things you're searching for is a degree of modularity with it, so that it's easily transferable or integrated. How are you sort of meeting that challenge when you've got that kind of diverse application and performance requirement across a certain type of vehicle?
I would say that is a challenge, and I don't have a solution for it right now.
So as
Because
soon as you get that time, you're going to get a big promotion, I'm guessing, as soon as you figure that one out. So probably not a fair question, so apologies for that. But carry on.
Yeah, but what I can say that if we look at what the truck or for example the OEM they can offer for the customers, it's a lot of like customerizations, and that kind of the reason that we have to making a solution which can fit all the needs. Yeah, so that's, I don't know if we see this, it's really kind of back to the balance of the cost and the design, and if that's really the consideration will be still we have to fill in whatever the customer needs, or we have to limit the offer and for some time with this stage of the battery development. Yeah. So yeah, we don't know. We don't have the answer right now.
I mean, earlier on you mentioned you're in the phase you're in at the moment is working with kind of an existing platform and design or something, and you mentioned actually that the direction of travel should be more towards how passenger car has gone in standardization of it and a more bespoke. Do you see that as being more of a solution going forward to be able to optimize the battery performance and load carrying capacities in a more modular way as you described?
But the idea, or like it personally, I think we need to come out a modularity design which can fulfill all the requirement and that customer needs, and that is the trend I see, and I do believe that we will come to there in some time. Yeah.
Yeah. And Vaclav, just coming back to you around sort of the manufacturing side of it. What are the, I mean, these things have always been considerations, but are you seeing considerations around what can and can't be done in terms of speed, ramp up, volume, around things like materials, the size of the components, because the battery packs can be, the enclosures can be pretty big depending on what they're for, parts that are having to go into that. Is that, aside from just packaging is that all a part of the challenge that you're having to face at the moment? Are they bigger considerations, and perhaps they might have been with this particular type of component?
Yeah, what we see is that every single project brings, let's say, a lot of experience for everybody who is involved in that project, for the OEM, for the tier potentially, for the ABB as a manufacturing equipment, supplier. And we are getting better, all together. But it doesn't mean that we are at the end of the way of the journey, and we have some kind of stable, let's say, process how the battery trays will be produced. So definitely, right now it's a lot about the partnership, about, let's say, collaboration all together. During the design phase, to validate the processes, to do the proper testing, if we are able to, I don't know, use the powder coating, instead of, different coating, is this the best solution possible? And we have to really work closely together from the OEM side, from the tier side, and also, of course, providers of the manufacturing equipment. So this is how we are able to avoid some, let's say, unpleasant surprise during the project execution or ramp up of the production, that we all realize that maybe, we should decide a little bit different about the product design, about the process being used, and so on.
It's really interesting talking to you both. It's kind of, you're chasing kind of a very challenging goal at the end of the day, one which will just keep moving as we go. Just to remind the audience, just to remind you again, we've got the survey links in there and the North America event, so you can have a look at those, and also to remember to keep your questions coming in for our panel. Just looking at things that might be supporting both of your role. the tasks. Can new technologies such as additive manufacturing or megacasting, which we're seeing quite a lot of now, which we're using in the vehicle structures, are those kind of technologies that you see making a big difference or being viable in achieving the goals in terms of production, in terms of optimization of the design? So I'll come to you, Wenting, first on that one. Is it something you've looked at or are utilizing or thinking about?
The megacasting you mentioned, that is not so long time, right? There was a start with Tesla with like a cost reduction project, and then a lot of OEM, not a lot, but several OEMs or like car manufacturing started doing that. I would say that is a quite a good idea if really can lower the cost with minimize the part. And with what I kind of learned from the passenger cars, they can do that mega casting with also scalability. So it could be a good idea that the truck business could also take in. I don't know if it's just my personal idea. How I think it's good. It's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was something. Obviously, working with Volvo cars have been one, as you say, Tesla and a few of the other car manufacturers. And it's an interesting one because you would think casting would be particularly as flexible or as effective as it would appear to be, but new processes and cost as well. They wouldn't do it if it was too expensive at scale. Cars out. And I wondered about kind of around the enclosure side of it. If the enclosures were cast, if that would you could do a much more complicated structure with far fewer processes. And I don't know if it's something you agree with or investigate. I mean,
definitely, it's one potential, let's say, way how to produce the battery enclosure to mega cast it. But right now, what we see on the market, it's not really so used. Let's say there are certain, let's say, tests and validations of that let's say process or that approach, but there are still some challenges. Yeah, there are challenges in terms of geometry, in terms of quality. So basically, what we see on the market right now, it's either steel or aluminium trays, but usually they are welded together from different components, you know, to ensure the geometry and also, you know, all the other quality requirements like, you know, avoid leakage and stuff like that.
Yeah. And it's an interesting one because they're using it in the front and rear structures of the vehicles, aren't they? So it's quite a complicated structure that they have produced for that as well. And it does, by extension, seem like it might be quite a good idea for, especially now they can make them very lightweight as well. So it's an interesting one to look at. Just going back to some of the, I mean, your background, you're working, were the digital lead, I think, at ABB back up. But digital tools. So Wenting, coming to you, sort of digital simulation tools, and I'll come on to AI as well. Are those kind of things being deployed by yourself in the projects that you're working on? I would guess they are to some extent. Is that growing, and is the increasing sophistication of those supporting what you do?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we try to adapt to this digital development as much as possible, and especially in the earlier phase. And this could save us a lot of time to run a simulation instead of having something in physical. And also, definitely from the cell and to build to model to pack or then to the vehicle. In the complete process, we need those simulation to understand the complete like lifetime performance. Yeah.
Yeah. And have you been utilizing sort of any of the AI platforms to work with on that?
Not every day, but I'm trying to learn that and try to see if I can use it in my daily work. Yeah.
Yeah. And Vaclav, I mean, that, as I said, that was something you were, or probably still are, heavily involved in with ABB, and obviously the structures of the robots are the structures, they get more sophisticated, but also they get smarter as well now. So, I mean, is that a big factor for you in trying to achieve those goals that we discussed earlier on?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it kind of accelerated over the last 2-3 years. Of course, COVID was the reason why we accelerated all this, digital topics, Industry 4.0. We were using always, let's say, digital tools, our great robot studio for the simulation of the lines. But now more and more we are using different digital tools, including robot studio during the commissioning phase. Because, especially during the COVID, people can't travel so much, and we need to get our experts, involved from the other side of the world into the project during the commissioning. So we kind of accelerated that. But now definitely we are having new, let's say, tools, new features, inside of our kind of digital toolkit, how to bring more, let's say, productivity and efficiency to our customers. I can name just, recent example, which is automatic path planning for our robots, inside of Robot Studio, directly embedded, which is super nice and super cool, tool or feature, which can really simplify and improve not only the way how we program the movement of the robots, but bring also some additional benefits as, let's say, plan the path, according the lowest possible energy consumption. That means also it's touching sustainability topic and other stuff.
Yeah, it's a wonder how we actually managed before we had all these digital tools, because they're facilitating so much progress we see around production and design and development. One of the questions, another factor that's involved in the production side of it and in the development side is sustainability. And one of the things around battery enclosures has been the fact that they have to be sustainably produced, but they also have to be serviceable and recyclable. So Wentin, coming to you, is that another category of challenge that you're having to work around when you're looking at the way you're integrating the batteries and optimizing the packaging of them?
Yeah. For the sustainability part, there's another department or group. They are working to kind of help us to support when we do material selection and like lifetime evaluation. That's this kind of thing. And personally, I'm not much deeply involved in that, but we have that one as a design requirement as well. And it's like we have to consider that when we evaluate the concept. Yeah.
Yeah. And Vaclav, I mean, in terms of the production operations, you're looking at efficiencies and flexibility you were talking about earlier on, but is sustainability something that crops up when you're working with your clients?
No, definitely. All our development now has a target basically to bring the sustainability topic in. Yeah? That means, to reduce the energy consumption, to make sure that we are able to recycle, the materials, or we are able to refurbish the robots, the solutions, which we are providing to our customers. So it's basically combination of many things together, but we are always trying right now in terms of, let's say, new product development, bring this sustainability topic in as one of the major, let's say, parameter, because basically this is what we need to offer to our customers. Yeah, I had today morning a discussion with big OEM, and they are really taking seriously not only sustainability, that's for sure, but they are taking seriously this recycling, of everything what they produce. That's the first thing, but also, recycling of the manufacturing equipment, to use the robots much more longer, to use the, let's say, welding cells much more longer. So we are having these dialogues, how we are able to ensure that, and make sure that we will not waste any, let's say, energy, but also any material.
Yeah, so it's an additional but an important extra dimension to the work that you're doing in optimizing, aside from the challenges we've just been talking about. I just wanted to ask you both, one of the things we were looking around at battery enclosures the design and development of them, is that multi-material enclosures have been cited as a very good option because you can get the best of all the materials, you can make them quite light, you can get the performance levels out of it. But the challenge has always been, I mean, do you see these as being too costly and complex for viable production or utilization, or are they something that you would consider? I mean, I'll come to you first, Wenting, in terms of your looking for options and ways of optimizing the product.
For the enclosure design, when we look at it's first that we have to know it's how to say the enclosure design have to adapt with the cell selection, and then it's different cells has their property which will influence the material property for the enclosure. And also when we come to the truck application, that things getting very big, it's like a very big size, I would say, and the tolerances become very challenged, and this will influence the design as well. Yeah, I think that is the two things that could come out like in my head right now.
Yeah, we've seen some sort of developments of this side of things, and it's an interesting one. Multi-material cars is kind of was always a big thing as well, but there was all the challenges around cost and viability. I mean, Vaclav, from a production point of view, if you're working and automating a production process that is just one material, then that's a lot simpler. But have you been asked about multi-material production operations around this particular component?
If we take just the battery enclosures, I think at the beginning it was predominantly aluminum. Then we see, the trend to go to the steel, then back to aluminum. Then basically different OEMs decided to go different way. Now we see the combination of aluminum and steel. Of course, it's about experience, I think OEMs are getting more and more experience how these materials react, what is the durability of the product, what kind of challenges they are facing during the lifetime of the car at the end of the day, and so on. And it's just, generating these adjustments. So as I said, at the beginning, I think we are not at the end right now. We are still learning. Everybody is learning. In parallel to this massive EV transformation, and it would be very interesting to see where this all ends. But definitely, at the end of the day, you have to take that challenge and you have to figure out the process how to connect two different parts together. And of course there will be solution always for it.
And car makers or vehicle makers are at the moment really trying to search for that standardization, for that consistency in output. Even if there are variations in it, they're trying to look for that. I mean, there is still a lot of ongoing development around the battery chemistries you mentioned there that influence the formats, that will implement and integration into the vehicles and some changing platforms. Wenting, do you see this shifting landscape around the vehicle design and what's the components? Do you see that continuing in the sort of mid to long term?
I'm not sure if I get your question in the correct way.
The fact that the vehicles are continuing to evolve and the batteries themselves are continuing to evolve from a technical point of view, and by extension the sort of packaging and integration and manufacturing of it. It seems when we speak to a lot of car makers that this is not quite the fixed point that they want, and tier suppliers as well. It continues to change and has done over the last few years. Do you see that you're working in that and looking forward? Do you see that change, however sort of small, continuing as we go forward, being influenced by things like battery chemistries and packaging and things like that?
I would say that there will be continually changing for this development. And right now, what I see in most is in passenger vehicles. For a while now, we don't have any, like very like ice breaking or like very significant change of the sales development, and it's improving a little bit by like every year. But what they are doing is to making everything more integrated when we come to the pack design, and everything gets more compact together and integrated. Once come to the how to say, the commercial vehicle, if we want to going for the range or performance, yeah, we have to go for integrated design, but that means everything have to be together, and we lose the serviceability in some sense. And if you see the example we have in passenger cars now, it's expensive to maintenance, and we don't want that. Basically, personally, what I understand the truck business, we don't want that to happen. We want to be serviceable, and yeah, and so we have like also right now all the I would say the battery industry was kind of occupied by passenger vehicle because they are more further in the development, and all the format of the cells or the performance or the specification for the cells are designed for passenger vehicle more or less. And for when it comes to the truck business, we have to adapt that. We got what we get basically. And when people or industry start to see the trend or the volume that the truck has, and or the complete commercial vehicle going to have, and I would like to see there's some like really design for this, and that will be something I'm looking forward actually.
Yeah, well, I remember we had a conversation about it. It's very interesting what you're saying about even the business model of how the train works, of how the truck works, not in terms of recycling and things like that, was or recharging in distances. It was really interesting. Vaclav, you've already said about the fact that the challenges around the volumes, they are because of the changing volumes. Is that the biggest shifting thing that's the problem? And do you see that continuing in the short to long term?
Maybe in the short term. In the long term, I expect that there will be winners and losers. Yeah, so the market will most likely a little bit clean up, let's say. And I do believe that, you know, right now we are still, let's say, at the beginning of that, you know, EV transformation curve. And as soon as we progress a little bit further, then I do believe and I expect the volume will stabilize a little bit. So I think you know, this needs just a time, you know, yeah. And of course now everything is kind of, you know, unstable, and we see, you know, new players coming in, never produced any ICE car, straight away, you know, producing the EV cars. We see a lot of movement, of course, in China, you know, a lot of development is happening in China, but Europe and US now it's also, you know, really catching up. Yeah, we see a lot of investments in those two regions. So it's you know, kind of very interesting to see it, and very interesting to try to observe it. But definitely the future will be more stable, I do believe, in terms of volumes at least.
Right, well, you'll be glad to know that's all my questions now. I'm going to bring the session to an end. Thank you very much both for your time and insights and sharing your experience today. It's always it's always very interesting to see the challenges that you're dealing with and the solutions you're coming up with, and getting some real insights into that. So thank you for that. For our audience, quick last reminder for North America, have a quick look at that. The conference, some great speakers on this. We're really looking forward to this because America's seeing a lot of investment, a lot of change, very dynamic at the moment, and similar considerations that our panelists have spoken about across the broader spectrum there. We also have an upcoming event in the spring of next year, which might be of interest, and this is designed for production. So the we've alluded to it a little bit here, how design is influenced by what's manufactured. It's always been a consideration, but now it's much more closely tied, and there's a lot more integration between those departments and operations. So we will be having an event in Germany, I think in Munich. It's still in development, but it will be around sort of springtime next year. So keep an eye out for that. And a final thanks to our partners for this, ABB. Thanks again for their cooperation and allowing Vaclav to have the afternoon off to talk to me, much appreciated. And with that, I'll sign off and say thank you very much for joining us today. Look out for our next live streams coming up. So Vaclav, Wenting, thanks very much, and goodbye.